Chainsaw Man Season 1 is done by Mappa Studio, and it is wonderful. I've caught up on the manga way before this, and I'm obviously like 3 years behind. I don't like to use streaming services for anime. I usually like to borrow them from the library, and they come a little bit later. That's just a personal preference, but Chainsaw Man is a very faithful and well-done adaptation, really amazing animation. I knew that this would be a special series because of how much detail and like effort they put just on the first episode. There's like an episode where, if you're unfamiliar with the story, Denji is a poor boy who is a teenager, and him and Pochita, it's like a little chainsaw dog creature, they go around hunting devils. In this world, there are devils that show up of varying different powers. Devils basically are like demons of sorts, and they make contracts with humans to get stronger, and they are stronger in general if people are more afraid. So if there's like a gun devil, it's because people are afraid of gun violence, so it'd be a very powerful creature. So the one that Denji has is a little chainsaw dog, not very scary because, you know, a lot of people are, I guess, are afraid of chainsaws, I guess, in general because of their destructive power. But he's working for some gangsters because his father took his own life while owing them, and he's poor and uneducated, so they sort of take advantage of him, and he does little odd jobs for them until they betray him one day, and he becomes Chainsaw Man. And that first episode, he just basically fights off all these zombies, but there's so much effort put into just a small fight scene, so it's really great. It's a lot of dynamic blocking, and I don't know if they copied the manga's sort of blocking, I guess, but it's really well done. And this first season's only 12 episodes, and it only covers like some chapters, so I was actually surprised that like rather than try to rush it through and do more episodes and try to shove all of it into one longer season or skip story, they just sort of take its time. You know, like you can have 1 or 2 episodes for one whole chapter and have a battle spread throughout. And I really like the sort of details like that, and you know, the pacing's pretty good too, but also the humor's intact and the storytelling's all sort of elevated too, because I watched the Chainsaw Man Reze movie last year in 2025, so I'll just add that to this review at the end. I'll just edit it on. But I was already familiar with the story, but the movie had this sort of cinematic quality because it was just so well done, but the show is the same way. It's the same studio, and they obviously made both, so I was just surprised that all 12 episodes are really well like animated. And of course, I've only seen like maybe 5 or 6 Mappa Studios animes, but this one's definitely up there, and I'm excited for season 2 for sure, and definitely looking forward to the Assassin arc and then beyond. So those are my thoughts on Chainsaw Man Season 1. Chainsaw Man the movie Reze Arc is a movie sequel to the Chainsaw Man anime Season 1. Basically, Chainsaw Man, the manga horror action, basically is comprised so far of 2 storylines. The public safety phase, and then there's the school phase. So Chainsaw Man, the anime, right now is tackling the first phase. So Season 1 just covers like 3 arcs, and then this one covers Reze. She's basically a love interest for Denji, and it gives him a taste of civilian life because he sort of joined the public safety sector in order to use his powers to impress his boss because he has a crush on Makima, and he meets some new friends, and he gets to live normally because he's lived in squalor his whole life. But Reze comes along. She's like a cute civilian girl who sort of gives him a taste of what it'd be like to date. However, their relationship is put at risk when a villain shows up, one who's going to go after Reze and basically finds a way to hurt Denji, basically, because Denji's pretty strong physically, but it's going to be a bit of a battle facing this new foe with Reze in the way. This movie's really well done. It's basically the first 3 arcs of the manga are done for Season 1, and then there's this arc, the Reze arc, and then there's the 3 more before the end of probably will be Season 2. So this movie's not accessible for someone who hasn't seen the first season, or at least read the first, maybe, I don't want to say like 7 or 8 volumes of the manga. This isn't something you just jump into. It's not like a side quest movie. It's not like just a collection of episodes. This movie is not accessible in that way because it's actually a continuation of the story. It's literally like the fourth chapter of a series of movies, basically. And being a movie allows it to be a little bit different because the story is not cut up into 20-minute chunks. So most of this movie is basically the romance. The romance between Denji and Reze as they sort of bond. He gets a normal civilian life. They go skinny dipping. And then they introduce a villain to threaten everything. So it ends up becoming a really large, bombastic sort of story. Definitely something that works better as a movie because the entire movie is basically a setup for the big finale. And some of the other characters don't get a lot to do because they don't have a lot to do in the story. But we don't get a lot of power. Makima's there for a little bit. Aki's there for a little bit. It's not a lot of Kobeni either. A lot of characters are just there for one scene because it's mainly a trio thing between Reze, Denji, and the villain, who combines with the Typhoon Devil or something. So it's a really interesting movie. It has the emotion still and the impressive animation. It's definitely held back though because it's not something you can just watch. It's not a side quest movie. It's not something that you can just watch without the context because you need that for the emotion, and you won't get some of the stuff that happens. You won't know who half the characters are. So Chainsaw Man is a really good movie. I really like the animation. It keeps the emotion though, so it's not just fighting, but there's also some stakes and other things going on. So I give Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc, a 7.5 out of 10.